Right now, running a successful automobile company is like trying to turn a cruise ship in a kiddie pool. Ford has been juggling a ton of balls lately, and let's just say, not all of them are staying in the air. Now the days when Ford was on fire, smashing records and dominating the market are long gone. What we now see is a bit of a roller coaster. Today, the company is facing supply chain woes, tech that's changing faster than your phone gets old, and customers with shorter attention spans than a goldfish. It's been a scramble to keep up. Add to that the drama of recalls, layoffs, and a production shutdown that's been dragging on for weeks, and you've got a recipe for some serious headaches. Now, in the midst of all this, Ford just dropped a bombshell that's got the whole car world talking. What exactly did they announce? And how will this impact the American automotive giant? Let's dive in and find out. Not too long ago, Ford used to be like the absolute king of cars. They were the ones who basically put the whole world on wheels, you know, pioneering stuff, always innovating, and just oozing that classic American ingenuity. But somewhere along the line, things started to go a bit south. It wasn't one giant blunder, more like a bunch of little cracks that slowly turned into a major headache. Outdated systems, bosses who seemed totally out of touch with what people actually wanted, and a whole lot of internal drama. It was a recipe for disaster. And while Ford was trying to figure things out, companies like Tesla and Toyota were just zooming past them. Now, things are getting really interesting. Ford's CEO just dropped a bomb and dealers are freaking out. See, for a while there, Ford got a bit too greedy. They started jacking up the prices way too high, especially on those hot models like the Bronco. People were willing to pay over the odds because demand was insane, so it seemed like a smart move at the time. But now, with the economy shifting and interest rates rising, people are thinking twice. Who wants to pay a fortune for a car when they could be facing a recession? Ford is now stuck with a dilemma. Do they lower prices and risk losing a ton of money, or do they stick to their guns and watch sales plummet? It's a tough spot to be in, that's for sure. To understand how serious this is, just take a stroll into any Ford dealership and you'll see what I mean. You'll see row after row of shiny F-150s, Broncos, and Rangers just sitting there, barely moving. What used to be the hottest rides on the block, the kind that would be snatched up before the sales guy even had a chance to put the window sticker on, are now piling up so fast that dealers are running out of space. And when I say they're running out of space, I mean it. Some dealerships are literally parking these trucks and SUVs on grassy fields because their main lots are bursting at the seams. It's like they're hosting a Ford truck festival, except no one's showing up. Here's the kicker, there are way more brand new 2023 models for sale than 2025s. That's not normal, especially in the truck world. It's a Ford-specific problem that's making people do a double take. Here's where it gets wild. As of November 2024, there are still 5,063 brand new 2023 Ford trucks sitting on lots across the United States. Now, that number might not sound like a big deal at first, but let's break it down. Those trucks account for a whopping 2.5% of all new Ford trucks available right now. For context, by this time of year, most other brands have already cleared out their older models to make room for the latest and greatest. But at Ford, those 2023s are still out there waiting for buyers, gathering dust instead of miles. And the 2025 models? Well, good luck finding one. Out of more than 200,000 new Ford trucks currently available in the United States, fewer than 1,000 are 2025s. Let that sink in, fewer than 0.5%. It's like they're mythical creatures or something. You hear about them, but no one's actually seen one. Now, let's compare that to Ford's rivals. Chevrolet, for example, is playing a totally different game. They've already shifted over half of their truck inventory to the 2025 models. Meanwhile, their 2023s are practically extinct. They're doing what Ford should be doing, keeping the inventory fresh and getting those older models off the lot. Ram isn't exactly hitting it out of the park, but they're definitely doing better than Ford. Around 2% of Ram's current stock consists of 2023 models, roughly 2,100 trucks. Sure, that's not ideal, but compared to Ford's situation, it's a walk in the park. Now, let's talk about the Bronco for a second. Remember how about a year ago, getting your hands on one felt like you just won the lottery? They were that rare, but fast forward to now and they're everywhere. Seriously, it's like they cloned these things overnight. And it's not just the Bronco that's piling up. The F-150s, Ford's bread and butter truck, are sitting on lots like they're part of a parking lot museum. These trucks are so backed up that the only way dealerships can move them is by slashing prices with some major discounts. And we're not talking about just a few dealerships here and there. This is a nationwide issue. Oh, and the Ranger, same story. A few months ago, they were nearly impossible to find. Now, it feels like dealerships are practically waving you in from the street to take one off their hands. Here's where it gets even crazier. Despite dealerships being absolutely flooded with unsold 2024 models, Ford's CEO has announced plans to raise the manufacturer's suggested retail price, or MSRP, for the 2025 models. Yup, raise prices. Let that sink in for a moment. With all these unsold trucks sitting around, they're thinking, let's make them more expensive. It's a move that has left both customers and dealerships scratching their heads, and in many cases flat out furious. People are out here wondering, what is Ford even doing? The logistical nightmare doesn't stop there. Ford dealerships are literally running out of space. Some lots are so overcrowded with 2024 inventory that they've had to start getting creative. Parking trucks on grassy fields, renting extra space, you name it, and this isn't a minor inconvenience. It's turning into a full-blown storage crisis. Here's the big question. If they can't move the 2024 models now, where are they going to put all the shiny 2025s rolling off the production line? And to make things even trickier, selling those new models at higher prices, that's like trying to sell umbrellas during a drought. It's a tough sell, to say the least. See the Ford Maverick, for example. A few months ago, these little trucks were hotter than a summer barbecue, practically flying off the lots. If you wanted one, good luck. The demand was through the roof, and spotting one on a dealer's lot was like finding a needle in a haystack. But now, oh man, it's a totally different story. Mavericks are everywhere. Seriously, you can't swing a wrench without hitting one. And now dealers are practically begging folks to take them. They're throwing out discounts left and right, like $1,500 to $2,000 off. The Maverick was already one of Ford's most affordable trucks, so these price cuts make it even more appealing. Right now, you can pick up the base trim for under $35,000. Not bad, right? It's one of those trucks that's not gonna drain your bank account, and that's probably why it's still selling okay. Sure, it's not setting records anymore, but compared to some of Ford's pricier rides, it's holding its own. Speaking of Ford's pricier rides, let's talk about the Ford Bronco. Remember the hype when it made its big comeback? Oh man, it was like the second coming of SUVs. Everyone wanted one. Waiting lists were insane. Dealers were slapping on ridiculous markups, and people were still lining up. Even Ford employees were getting caught up in the frenzy, paying extra just to get their hands on one. It was like a game of pay up or go home, and folks were happy to pay. Fast forward to now, and it's like the Bronco went from prom king to the kid nobody remembers. All those Broncos that were once in high demand, they're now just sitting around gathering dust at dealerships across the country. It's almost comical. You drive past a Ford lot, and it's Bronco City out there. Rows and rows of unsold Broncos are lined up like they're having a parking lot party, and it's so bad they've had to spill onto the grassy patches to make room. And guess what's moving in? Yeah, more F-150s, including the shiny new 2025 models that Ford's been hyping up. The Bronco's fall from grace is kind of hard to believe. I mean, it was the it car, and now dealers are practically tripping over them. Take the 2024 Ford Bronco Badlands, for example. On paper, this thing is a beast. Rugged build? Check. Off-road ready? Double check. It's the kind of SUV that makes you want to ditch work and head straight to the mountains. But then you see the price tag, $70,670. 70 grand. That's enough to make anyone pump the brakes, especially when its biggest rival, the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, is sitting there looking all cool and confident with a much friendlier price tag. Here's the thing about the Bronco, it's not like it suddenly turned into a dud. The Bronco is still a rock-solid SUV, packed with all the rugged charm and off-road capabilities that made it a dream car for adventurers. But the game has changed. Demand has cooled off big time, while Ford's assembly lines have been cranking them out like nobody told them the party's over. So now, we've got dealerships swimming in Broncos, and that once hot ticket item is looking more like a shiny indulgence than an absolute must-have. And let's not forget the bigger picture here. Rising interest rates and a shaky economy have people tightening their wallets. Suddenly, that cool Bronco in the showroom isn't quite as irresistible as it was a couple of years ago. It's still great, don't get me wrong, but when your monthly payments are creeping into luxury car territory, it starts to feel like a splurge you can skip. The Bronco story is basically a textbook case of what happens when supply and demand get out of sync. Back when it first rolled onto the scene, Ford could barely keep up with orders. That scarcity turned it into a golden ticket. Buyers were desperate to get their hands on one, and dealerships were loving it. They slapped on sky-high markups knowing people would pay. But then Ford ramped up production, and buyers, well, they cooled off. The market flipped, and now it's the buyers calling the shots. Dealers are bending over backward with incentives and discounts, hoping someone, anyone, will take these SUVs off their hands. Here's an example. Dealers are tossing out discounts that, on paper, sound pretty solid. A $5,600 dealer discount plus a $2,000 factory rebate adds up to a $7,600 markdown. Sounds good, right? Except it still leaves the high-end Bronco Badlands priced at $62,900. In today's market, that's a tough pill to swallow, especially when buyers are spoiled for choice and cautious about big-ticket items. If Ford wants to really move these Broncos, they'll need to dig deeper into those discounts. Because let's be real, $62,900 isn't exactly a bargain. And if you think the Bronco's pricing drama is wild, wait until you hear about the Ford Expedition. This is Ford's full-size SUV, the Big Kahuna. It's packed with space, power, and features, but it comes with a jaw-dropping price tag. We're talking starting MSRPs around $85,000. Yep, you heard that right, 85 grand for an SUV. Now, dealers are practically begging people to take these off their hands, offering discounts as big as $11,000 in some cases. That brings the price down to around $74,000. It's better, sure, but it's still a lot of cash. Most folks expect something like the Expedition to be priced in the mid-$60,000 range, not creeping towards $75,000. Let's move on to the F-150, Ford's all-star player and the truck that basically prints money for them, or used to anyway. Even these legendary pickups, the ones people used to snatch up like hotcakes, are starting to pile up on dealership lots. And when space runs out, dealers do what they've gotta do, slash prices. Right now, they're chopping off as much as $10,000 on certain trim levels to clear inventory. For the first time in years, you can actually find some F-150 models priced under $50,000. Yeah, that's a big deal. It's a price point that might finally convince those hesitant buyers who've been sitting on the sidelines. But wait, it gets more complicated. Ford's leap into the EV game hasn't exactly been a smooth ride. In the third quarter of 2024, their EV division, which they've cleverly named Model E, reported a staggering loss of $1.2 billion. That's just one quarter, folks. If you zoom out and look at the first 9 months of the year, the total losses ballooned to an eye-watering $3.7 billion. Let that sink in for a minute. And here's the wild part. During those 9 months, Ford sold about 32,000 EVs. Now, if you do the math, don't worry, I'll do it for you. That means they lost roughly $37,500 per car. Let's be real, losing that much money every time you sell something is the kind of math that keeps CFOs awake at night. But here's the thing, this isn't just a Ford problem, it's more like a full-on EV industry problem. Everyone's in the same boat, trying to paddle upstream in a market that's suddenly gotten very crowded. Ford's CEO Jim Farley was pretty blunt about it. He said the industry's in the middle of a global price war, and it's heating up faster than a Tesla on ludicrous mode. The main issue is that there are way too many EVs being produced and not enough buyers lining up. It's basic supply and demand, except it's turning into a nightmare for profits. To make matters even messier, the EV market is absolutely flooded with new models. Automakers are racing to outdo each other, pumping out everything from sleek sedans to futuristic trucks. And while that's awesome news for anyone looking to snag a deal, it's putting immense pressure on companies. They're dropping prices left and right just to stay in the game, but that means razor-thin margins, or worse, massive losses. And Ford's not alone in this struggle. Stellantis, which owns brands like Ram and Jeep, is also feeling the pinch. They're facing similar overproduction headaches, with vehicles piling up and prices dropping even more to move inventory. It's a vicious cycle. Too many cars, not enough buyers, and a constant battle to undercut the competition. Alright, let's dig into the story of the F-150 Lightning, Ford's bold foray into the electric pickup market. Ford decided to go all in with their electric game, thinking, this is it, everyone's gonna love this. But guess what? Trying to predict how much people will actually want a brand new all-electric pickup truck is harder than finding a good parking spot at the mall during Black Friday madness. On paper, it sounded genius. Take the F-150, America's favorite truck for decades, and give it an electric heart. It was supposed to be the crown jewel of Ford's EV strategy, blending rugged utility with futuristic tech. But in reality, it's been a rough ride, and most of the drama boils down to one thing, the price tag. don't get me wrong, the F-150 Lightning is pretty cool. I mean, it's an electric version of one of the most iconic trucks ever. But when it comes to the numbers, yeah, not exactly the roaring success they'd hoped for. Ford's electric division, Model E, has been having a rough time. In early 2024, their sales dropped by 26%. Ouch. And if that wasn't enough, they're bracing for a full year loss of between $5 billion and $5.5 billion. That's billion with a B. The Lightning itself, well, it's moving about as fast as a snail on a lazy Sunday afternoon. In November alone, they sold only 4,400 units. Yeah, 4,400. That's like a small town's worth of trucks. So Ford had to pump the brakes on production plans for 2024, cutting them in half. Talk about a reality check, right? And here's where it gets even messier. Ford hit pause or outright canceled $12 billion in electric vehicle investments. Why? Well, because they've been losing around $60,000 on every electric vehicle they sell. Imagine selling a car and basically handing over the keys along with a fat stack of cash. It's wild. On top of that, they had this big dealer EV program going, but after some legal drama and dealers backing out, they had to scale it way back. Not exactly the momentum they were hoping for. Oh, and remember that massive battery plant they were planning in Michigan? Yeah, they've slashed that project by more than 40%. Then there's their next big electric pickup. They've pushed its launch back to 2027. And that fancy electric SUV they teased? Totally canceled. At this point, it feels like they're trying to juggle bowling balls on a unicycle. Part of the problem is that consumers are still figuring out their relationship with electric vehicles. Sure, people love the idea of saving the planet and skipping those painful gas station visits. Ford slapped a starting price of nearly $90,000 on the F-150 Lightning. That's the kind of number that makes you stop and rethink every life choice. Sure, it's loaded with cutting-edge features, like a frunk that can hold your tools and your tailgate party snacks, enough torque to tow a small house, and even the ability to power your home during a blackout. But let's face it, no matter how cool the tech is, 90 grand is steep for a truck. And the market? It's speaking loud and clear. Buyers just aren't lining up. The demand has been so underwhelming that Ford made the drastic decision to hit pause on production entirely until next year. Imagine that, a flagship product shelved, not because of supply chain issues, but because people just aren't buying. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially since the F-150 Lightning had a moment in the spotlight. Back in 2023, it was the top-selling electric truck in the United States, outpacing rivals like the Rivian R1T and the Hummer EV. But even that wasn't enough to meet Ford's ambitious sales goals. In response to the lackluster demand, Ford is shaking things up at its Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan. This plant was supposed to be a hub of innovation, cranking out Lightning trucks to meet what Ford assumed would be insatiable demand. Instead, out of the 2,100 workers there, 1,400 are being reassigned or offered early retirement. It's a major shift, and while Ford is quick to clarify that these are not layoffs, it's still a sign of trouble. Here's how it's playing out. 700 employees are being moved to the Michigan assembly plant in Wayne, where they'll work on Ford's Bronco SUV and Ranger pickup, vehicles that are still in high demand. The other 700 are being given the option to transfer to other Michigan facilities or take a $50,000 retirement package. Ford's framing this as a voluntary move, but it's clear that the F-150 Lightning struggles are rippling through the workforce. So, what's going on here? For starters, Ford might have overestimated how many people would be willing to drop nearly 6 figures on an electric truck. That miscalculation left dealerships across the country with more Lightnings than they can sell. Some dealers have even started refusing additional shipments because their lots are already jam-packed. And when the trucks aren't moving, neither is the production line. That leaves workers stuck in a kind of employment limbo, waiting for demand or prices to shift. This isn't just a Ford problem, it's a snapshot of the growing pains the entire EV market is experiencing. High prices, a lack of widespread charging infrastructure, and lingering consumer skepticism about EVs are all throwing up roadblocks. Even with federal tax incentives and state rebates, electric vehicles still feel like a luxury item for a lot of buyers. And the ripple effects don't stop there. When dealerships can't sell the trucks, production halts, and workers feel the squeeze. Now, a lot of car dealerships are starting to rethink their game plan, and some are outright bailing. One big name in the auto business, AutoNation Inc., which is kind of a giant in the United States dealership world, made a bold move recently. During the third quarter of 2024, they sold off 8 of their dealerships. That's not just some casual reshuffling, and get this, 5 of those 8 were Ford franchises. Yep, they parted ways with over half a handful of Ford locations. Now, they didn't just hand over the keys and walk away. Oh no, they cashed in, big time. They made a whopping $156 million from the deal. Sounds like a win for AutoNation, right? But here's where it gets spicy. What does this say about Ford? If AutoNation is walking away from such a big brand, it's not exactly a glowing review. Let's get real. AutoNation is in it to make money. They're not running a charity. They sell cars to make serious profits. So, when they call some dealerships underperforming and decide to sell them off, that's a big hint that something isn't adding up. And when they do this with Ford, one of the most iconic names in the industry, it's kind of like saying, yeah, we're not so sure about you anymore. And let's face it, if AutoNation is thinking this way, other dealers might start having the same doubts. So why were these dealerships underperforming in the first place? The auto market is, well, kind of messy right now. People are a lot more cautious about spending, especially on big purchases like new cars. Ford's lineup, while impressive, isn't exactly cheap. Take the F-150 Lightning, for example. It's a fantastic electric truck, but it's got a price tag that can make anyone think twice. Pair that with rising interest rates, lingering supply chain issues, and stiff competition from electric vehicle startups like Rivian and Tesla, and suddenly those Ford dealerships aren't the cash cows they used to be. AutoNation probably looked at their lots full of unsold vehicles and decided it just wasn't worth the hassle anymore. Why sit on inventory that's not moving when you could sell the dealership and pocket some serious cash? And this move isn't just about AutoNation, it could be the start of a bigger shift in the industry, a sort of domino effect. Here's why this matters so much. Dealerships are more than just places to buy cars, they're Ford's direct link to its customers. If other dealership groups see what AutoNation did and start following suit, Ford could be in some real trouble. Fewer dealerships mean fewer places for customers to check out their cars, less visibility in the market, and even more pressure to keep those sales numbers from tanking. This could push Ford to take a hard look at what they're doing. Are their vehicles just too expensive for today's cautious buyers? Is their big push into electric vehicles not hitting the right note with consumers? These are the tough questions Ford will need to answer, and fast. If they don't, they risk more dealers pulling the plug, and that's a slippery slope they definitely don't want to be on. So what do you think about this? Let us know in the comments section. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest videos. While you're still here, click the video on your screen to see more interesting content like this one.